Do you get back pain when twisting? That may include things like rolling over in bed at night, getting out of the car, taking dishes from the sink to the dishwasher, or getting clothes out of the washer to put them in the dryer, or playing sports like golf, tennis, or pickleball. If you get back pain with any of those activities, then this video is for you. Hi, I'm Dr. Dave Candy, and in this video, I'm going to show you 2 stretches that you absolutely must avoid if you get lower back pain when twisting, plus what to do instead. Now, before we get started with the exercises, it helps to understand just why twisting is so bad for your lower back. The joints in your lower back are aligned in a fashion such that they sit inside one another. And that means that when you twist more than just a few degrees to one side or the other, the joints jam into one another. Now that can create facet joint pain, but it can also shear the discs. When you twist normally, the axis of rotation should be in the center of the disc. But when you twist too far, it changes that axis of rotation from the center of the disc to the facet joint itself and can shear or even tear the disc. So it's absolutely important to avoid things where you over-rotate. Now, there are some very common physical therapy stretches that actually encourage excessive rotation. I'm going to show those to you now and then give you some alternatives to do instead. Now, the first exercise to avoid is one where you take your leg and cross it across like that while keeping the other shoulder back on the floor or on the bed. The reason this is so bad is because it causes excessive rotation in the lower back. And for the reasons that we mentioned before, the facets jamming together and the shearing on the discs, this is not a good position. Now you may notice that this is similar to a position where a chiropractor or a physical therapist would do a lumbar manipulation. And sometimes when you do this position, it does give you a little pop in the back. And it is okay to go into that position for a short period of time, but you don't want to excessively stretch for seconds or minutes on end in this position. So a good alternative to do instead is to take your leg and cross it over like this, and then pull your knee towards the opposite shoulder. What this does is it stretches out your hip muscles, and many people who have back pain when twisting actually have stiffness in their hips, which causes them to move more from the lower back. So rather than crossing your whole body and doing a lot of twisting at the lower back, you actually want to minimize the amount of twisting you're doing at the lower back. Cross your leg over and pull across until you feel a stretch in the back of your hip here. So that's the first exercise to avoid, plus an alternative. Now the second exercise is a lower trunk rotation, where you twist from side to side like this. The idea is just to get the lower back joints moving and stretch out the muscles, but again, it encourages excessive rotation. So a good alternative to this is doing a mini trunk rotation, where you're doing just very slight trunk movements like this, staying within that couple degrees of rotation that the lower back actually does allow. And what you're doing here is you're actually using your abdominal muscles, specifically your obliques, to help control that rotation. So it's actually really more of an anti-rotation exercise where you're preventing your knees from going too far that way. And if you were to do nothing at all, gravity would kind of take them over this way, but you're using your abdominal and core muscles to control the rotation and just keep it in that nice midline. The other option would be to put one leg out straight, put your hands on your hip bones, and lower just one leg down, trying to control the movement of your pelvis. And again, you don't want your pelvis to follow along with your knee like that. So you should feel the pelvic bones right here staying fairly still. Do a little bit of a pulling in with your abdomen to flatten your lower back out on the bed or the floor, and then just drop the leg out. Again, focusing more on control, trying to move the hip independently of moving your lower back. Now you may notice that in both of those exercises, we focused on movements of the hip while controlling the lower back. And that's because the hip joints are very well suited to rotate. So the next exercise we're going to go through is actually improving the rotation in the hip joints so that you don't have to rotate so much through your lower back. Unlike your lower back joints, your hip joints are ball and socket joints. That means they are ideally suited to rotate back and forth. And when you're doing something that requires twisting from one side to the other, you want to avoid twisting with your lower back and instead twist from your hips. And so to practice that, we're going to focus on just a little hip swivel where you twist your pelvis to one side, shifting to the inside of one foot and the outside of the other foot, and then shift back the other direction. So you should be keeping your core pretty tight here. Your abdominal muscles should stay stiff so that your trunk moves in line with your pelvis. They stay pretty much as one piece, and you're forcing all the movement in this hip swivel to come through the actual hip joints. Now, this is particularly helpful if you play a sport such as golfing or tennis or pickleball, where you're doing a shift of your weight back this way and then following your pelvis through, or where you're doing a shift back this way and following through. So that can be very helpful for people who play more rotational type sports, but it's also good just for your average person who has to grab things from one area. For example, the dishes in the sink or the laundry in the washer or dryer. So again, shift over to one side, swivel your hips, keep your core tight, and then go to the other side, swivel back to one side again, and back to the other side. Now finally, we're going to work on twisting through your middle and upper back. Unlike your lumbar spine, your lower back, your thoracic spine has vertebrae that are lined up more like this. The orientation of those vertebrae is well suited to allow twisting and rotation. So your thoracic spine is well suited to twisting and your hips are well suited to twisting, but your lower back is not. To work on improving thoracic rotation, you want to sit down in a chair and keep your abdominals tight. So you're going to, again, avoid twisting from your lower back. And just focus on an upper trunk rotation, reaching across your body and twisting your upper trunk while keeping your belly button pointed straight ahead, and then twisting the other way. Twist one way and twist the other way. Twist one way and twist the other way. And go back and forth just in a range that feels comfortable. If you do notice pain in your lower back when you're doing this, chances are you're probably over-rotating or twisting too far, causing rotation into the lower back. So just keep this in a range that feels relatively easy to do. You may notice that your weight shifts a little bit from buttock to buttock as you're doing that, and that's okay. Now, a final exercise to help with upper trunk rotation is actually a combined side bending and rotation movement. Side bending and rotation are coupled in opposite directions in the lower back, meaning that when you twist your trunk one way, it side bends the opposite way. Now, to do this, we're going to do a stretch for a muscle called your quadratus lumborum that sits on the side of your spine. And to do this, you're going to start out by rotating one elbow towards the opposite knee. That causes your trunk to rotate in this direction. Now you're going to side bend the opposite way by raising the other arm up in the air and leaning to the opposite side. Hold that stretch for about 30 seconds, and then you're going to switch to the other side. So elbow towards knee. If you can't get it all the way to the knee, that's okay. Just do what feels comfortable for you, and then reach up and side bend towards the opposite side. And that stretches out the quadratus lumborum on this side. So hopefully you found this video helpful if you do have back pain when twisting. Now, if you need help to get out of bed without lower back pain, check out this video up here. Or if you're a golfer and you have back pain when swinging a golf club, check out this video down here. But before you go check those out, if you found this video helpful, make sure to give it a like and subscribe to our channel so you can get notified of our future videos. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.